students, welcome to the lecture on organization, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives: define the meaning and nature of organizing, explain the principles of organizing, describe the process and importance of organizing, understand the delegation of authority, explain centralization and decentralization, define the concept of departmentation. Let's start with the concept of organization. Management operates through various functions, often classified as planning, organizing, staffing, leading or directing, controlling or monitoring, and motivation. The organizing function creates the pattern of relationships among workers and makes optimum use of resources to enable the accomplishment of business plans and objectives. A manager performs organizing function with the help of the following steps. Identification of activities. All the activities which have to be performed in a concern have to be identified first. Departmentally organizing the activities. In this step, the manager tries to combine and group similar and related activities into units or departments. Classifying the authority. Once the departments are made, the manager likes to classify the powers and its extent to the managers. Coordination between authority and responsibility. Relationships are established among various groups to enable smooth interaction towards the achievement of the organizational goal. Let us now discuss the meaning and nature of organizing. Organizing in management refers to the relationship between people, work, and resources used to achieve the common objectives, goals. According to Louis Allen, organizing is the process of identifying and grouping the work to be performed, defining and delegating responsibility and authority, and establishing relationships for the purpose of enabling people to work most effectively together in accomplishing objectives. Organizing may be defined as such process which is made by any business firm for the purpose of achieving its own goals or objectives in a smooth way. It is the process of ensuring healthy relationship among the departments by the proper channel of communication so that the personal employees of every department can give their 100% contributions in the accomplishment of desired goals. Concept or nature of organizing or organization. Organization as a process. The concept of organizing can be considered as a process because a large number of events or activities are done under the process of organizing with a view to accomplish the preset goals in an appropriate way. Characteristics or features of organizing or organization. Organization is a group of individuals. Organization can consider as a group of individuals who comes together and makes cooperative relationship with each other and contributing their efforts with a view to attain preset goals. Organization is a process. The feature of organization can be put to as a process because a large number of events are done under organizing processes towards the attainment of predetermined goals such as determination of various activities, grouping of activities, allocation of work amongst the employees, and delegation of authority as well. Hence, organization is a process. Now moving on to the next topic, we will study the principles of organizing. The organizing process can be done efficiently if the managers have certain guidelines so that they can take decisions and can act. To organize in an effective manner, the following principles of organization can be used by a manager. Work specialization. One popular organizational concept is based on the fundamental principle that employees can work more efficiently if they are allowed to specialize. Chain of command. The chain of command is an unbroken line of authority that links all persons in an organization and defines who reports to whom. This chain has two underlying principles, unity of command and scalar principle. Unity of command. This principle states that an employee should have one and only one supervisor to whom he or she is directly responsible. No employee should report to two or more people. Scalar principle. The scalar principle refers to a clearly defined line of authority that includes all employees in the organization. Authority. Authority is the formal and legitimate right of a manager to make decisions, issue orders, and allocate resources to achieve organizationally desired outcomes. Organizational authority has three important underlying principles. Authority is based on the organizational position, and anyone in the same position has the same authority. Authority is accepted by subordinates. Subordinates comply because they believe that managers have a legitimate right to issue orders. Authority flows down the vertical hierarchy. Positions at the top of the hierarchy are vested with more formal authority than are positions at the bottom. Delegation. A concept related to authority is delegation. Delegation is the downward transfer of authority from a manager to a subordinate. Most organizations today encourage managers to delegate authority in order to provide maximum flexibility. Managers need to take 4 steps if they want to successfully delegate responsibilities to their teams. Specifically assign tasks to individual team members. The manager needs to make sure that employees know that they are ultimately responsible for carrying out specific assignments. Give team members the correct amount of authority to accomplish assignments. Typically, an employee is assigned authority commensurate with the task. A classical principle of organization warns managers not to delegate without giving the subordinate the authority to perform the delegated task. Make sure that team members accept responsibility. Responsibility is the flip side of the authority count. Responsibility is the duty to perform the task or activity an employee has been assigned. Create accountability. Team members need to know that they are accountable for their projects. Accountability means answering for one's actions and accepting the consequences. The additional principles that may be helpful for managers who have tried to delegate in the past and failed. Principle 1. Match the employee to the task. Managers should carefully consider the employees to whom they delegate tasks. The individual selected should possess the skills and capabilities needed to complete the task. Principle 2. Be organized and communicate clearly. The managers must have a clear understanding of what needs to be done, what deadlines exist, and what special skills are required. Span of control. Span of control, sometimes called span of management, refers to the number of workers who report to one manager. For hundreds of years, theorists have searched for an ideal span of control. A wide span of management exists when a manager has a large number of subordinates. A variety of factors can influence the extent to which a firm is centralized or decentralized. The following is a list of possible determinants. The external environment in which the firm operates. The more complex and unpredictable this environment, the more likely it is that top management will get low-level managers make important decisions. The nature of the decision itself. The riskier or the more important the decision, the greater the tendency to centralize decision making. Let's now know the meaning of process of organizing. Organizing, like planning, must be a carefully worked out and applied process. This process involves determining what work is needed to accomplish the goal, assigning those tasks to individuals, and arranging those individuals in a decision-making framework. Review plans and objectives. Objectives are the specific activities that must be completed to achieve goals. Plans shape the activities needed to reach those goals. Determine the work activities necessary to accomplish objectives. Although this task may seem overwhelming to some managers, it doesn't need to be. Classify and group the necessary work activities into manageable units. A manager can group activities based on 4 models of departmentalization: functional, geographical, product, and customer. Assign activities and delegate authority. Managers assign the defined work activities to specific individuals. Also, they give each individual the authority or the right to carry out the assigned task. Design a hierarchy of relationships. A manager should determine the vertical decision-making and horizontal coordinating relationships of the organization as a whole. Steps in the process of organizing. Once plans are formulated, the next step is that of organizing. The network of authority-responsibility relationship is known as organization structure. The process of organizing consists of the following steps: determining and defining the activities required for the achievement of organizing goals, grouping the activities into logical and convenient units, assigning the duties and activities to specific positions and people. Now, moving on to the next topic, we will study the importance of organizing function. Specialization. Organizational structure is a network of relationships in which the work is divided into units and departments. Well-defined jobs, organizational structure helps in putting right men on right job, which can be done by selecting people for various departments according to their qualifications, skill, and experience. Clarifies authority. Organizational structure helps in clarifying the role positions to every manager, status quo. Coordination. Organization is a means of creating coordination among different departments of the enterprise. Authority. Responsibility. Relationships can be fruitful only when there is a formal relationship between the two. Let's talk about the delegation of authority. A manager alone cannot perform all the tasks assigned to him. In order to meet the targets, the manager should delegate authority. Elements of delegation. Authority. In context of a business organization, authority can be defined as the power and the right of a person to use and allocate the resources efficiently, to take decisions, and to give orders so as to achieve the organizational objectives. Authority must be well defined. Responsibility. It is the duty of the person to complete the task assigned to him. A person who is given the responsibility should ensure that he accomplishes the task assigned to him. Accountability. It means giving explanations for any variance in the actual performance from the expectations set. Accountability cannot be delegated. Relationship between authority and responsibility. Authority is the legal right of a person or superior to command his subordinates, while accountability is the obligation of the individual to carry out his duties as per standards of performance. Importance of delegation. Delegation of authority is a process in which the authority and powers are divided and shared amongst the subordinates. The importance of delegation can be justified by, through delegation, a manager is able to divide the work and allocate it to the subordinates. Delegation of authority is the ground on which the superior-subordinate relationship stands. An organization functions as the authority flows from top level to bottom. Delegation of authority is help to both superior and subordinates. Principles of delegation. There are a few guidelines in form of principles which can be a help to the manager to process of delegation. The principles of delegation are: principle of result accepted. It suggests that every manager, before delegating the powers to the subordinate, should be able to clearly define the goals as well as results expected from them. Principle of parity of authority and responsibility. According to this principle, the manager should keep a balance between authority and responsibility. Principle of absolute responsibility. This says that the authority can be delegated, but responsibility cannot be delegated by managers to his subordinates, which means responsibility is fixed. Principle of authority level. This principle suggests that a manager should exercise his authority within the jurisdiction or the framework given. Let's start with the centralization and decentralization. According to Allen, centralization is the systematic and consistent reservation of authority at central points in the organization.
This presentation is about the cycle of centralization and decentralization that occurs at many large companies. When companies are faced with large-scale and difficult change, it is often as a result of challenges with external market forces. The most common organization changes involve market repositioning, acquisition, integration, consolidation, and centralizing or decentralizing the control of the organization. This often creates fear, uncertainty, and power struggles. Decentralization never seems to cause much resistance within an organization, as it is generally linked to periods of growth and opportunity. However, the same cannot be said of the centralization phase. This slide represents a not too untypical profile of a successful company, with time on the x-axis and revenue on the y. At the formation of any company, the founders generally have all the decision-making and control centralized. This is centralized phase 1. Once they reach critical milestones, have a successful product offering with healthy market demand, they desperately want to gain as much market share as possible, particularly given that margins tend to be the highest at this stage. In order to grow and scale fast, they can no longer afford to be the constraints around decision-making. They must begin to delegate and allow significant degrees of freedom to be had within the operational sides of the business. This accelerates speed and is essentially decentralization phase 1. Many times this can appear chaotic, and the environments have often been compared to the Wild West with lots of people shooting from the hip. There often is lots of energy and excitement with significant external focus on serving the customer, and during this period people are mostly too busy to play politics. It does, however, lead to lots of waste, but as margins are high, this is tolerated. It's important to remember that high growth with high margins hide lots of sins. Then what often occurs is that new competitors enter the market, margins tend to drop, and revenue growth slows or stalls. This then prompts the organization to regroup and look to reduce costs, eliminate waste and excess from the system, do some consolidation, and leverage the whole of the organization. In order to do this, there needs to be an increase in central coordination and control. This then becomes centralization phase 2. When viewed objectively and from outside the system, this all appears logical. However, this process can appear very threatening to people within the system, as it suggests a big departure from the old way of doing business, with lots of uncertainty and unknowns. It often leads to significant organizational backlash and resistance, which is why this process has to be exceptionally well managed. If this process is done well, people will clearly understand what's happening, where they are in the process, and how to contribute to its success. If it's not done well, which unfortunately is often the case, it can stifle the company, introduce lots of politics, and prevent it from entering the next phase of growth. This often occurs when central resources get excessively power hungry and overswing the pendulum and retain too much control centrally. This usually leads to business decline. Getting the right balance is crucial, and if it is done right, what it leads to is the next phase of decentralization. Decentralization phase 2. This is where the business units are once again given sensible degrees of freedom that are enough to ensure that their needs for autonomy are satisfied and that the needs of control by corporate are also satisfied. The result then is growth generally begins again. People sometimes refer to this as hopping on another S-curve. It's important to realize that this is a perpetual cycle over the generation and history of the company, and the cycle can be repeated many times. Knowing that this is normal and predictable can be very helpful in people coming to grips with and dealing with what is happening. Knowing how to effectively manage through it is where leadership and change mastery comes into play. There is a process for increasing the likelihood of success of going through this process.
The implication of centralization can be reservation of decision-making power at top level, reservation of operating authority with the middle level managers, reservation of operation at lower levels at the directions of the top level. Implications of decentralization. There are many implications of decentralization. These are fewer burdens on the chief executive as in the case of centralization. In decentralization, diversification and horizontal can be easily implanted. Let's start with the concept of departmentation. The process of logical grouping of similar nature functions in manageable units for the purpose of overall coordination of organizational resources is departmentation. Grouping activities into separate units at the middle level is called intermediate departmentation, and at the lower level it is called ultimate departmentation or secondary departmentation. Importance of departmentation. The importance of departmentation may be stated in the following way. Specification. Departmentation helps to grow specification in various activities, which leads to improve the efficiency of operation. Feeling of autonomy. Departmentation gives independent charges to managers. The feeling of independence provides satisfaction and in turn increases their responsibilities and efficiency. Fixation of responsibility. Through departmentation, responsibilities of the work can be precisely and accurately fixed. The authority and responsibility of each department is defined precisely. Development of management. The managers of each department perform specialized functions. They take independent decisions and develop themselves for higher positions. Principles of departmentation. The principles of departmentation are principle of attainment of organizational objectives. It implies that departments are designed or created to provide all the facilities to achieve organizational objectives in an effective and efficient manner. Principles of comprehensive departmentation. It implies that the entire functions of the enterprise are to be covered while creating the departments. Principle of interdepartmental cooperation. It implies that departments should be designed in such a way that maximum interdepartmental cooperation is possible. Principle of promotion of specialization. It should help enhancing both managerial and operational specialization so that organizational efficiency can be achieved. And combination of human, physical and financial resources takes. An organization deliberately breaks the chain of command, such as when a project team is created to work on a special project. The scalar principle refers to a clearly defined line of authority that includes all employees in the organization. The major problem of functional authority is overlapping relationships, which can be resolved by clearly designating to individuals which activities their immediate bosses have authority over and which activities are under the direction of someone else. Span of control, sometimes called span of management, refers to the number of workers who report to one manager.